All right, hey guys, what's up? So, yeah, I know I'm a tad late here, but it's only because just doing some last minute stuff. Getting some dinner in, um, brushing my teeth, and then of course, getting myself set up here. So, how you guys doing tonight? Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend. Just give me one more quick sec. Just gonna go off camera here for a quick moment, and then I'll be back. Be right back here. All right. Yeah, right. I can't be fired on my own channel there, but anyways. Okay, so how you guys doing tonight? Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. One little quick little announcement. It involves YouTube just because so I actually asked RJ over the weekend and he said he would be willing to do it. So um I'm gonna have RJ co-host with me on Friday. So hopefully you guys be cool with that. RJ Carter from, of course, Critical Blast. I know I wanted to give you guys till Wednesday, but um, I just figured, if I can get him, if I might as well, 'cause I was gonna have to ask him anyways, rather than just make him wait till I decide on it. I figured just have him do it. All right. Well, thanks, Woody. If your main things is good, meaning you didn't have an issue with that, that's appreciated. So anyway, so RJ will be filling in for Bat Goat this Friday night. So anyways, hopefully I saw toys. You were, I guess, posting some toy renovation videos up on YouTube there. So are you getting back into that a little bit as well? I know you've been working as well. So we're up to 4 people now, so that's good to see. Uh, Excuse me one more time, guys. Sorry, just trying to. Sometimes when you rush, sometimes you just tend to forget something. I'll be right back just one more time here. Sorry. All right. Well, there's RJ knows about 10,000 times more about the main subject than I do. Well, yeah, but even when you filled in before, Woody, everybody, obviously you've been able to contribute when you've co-hosted. ATC's been able to contribute when he's co-hosted. Batgoat definitely contributes when when he's my co-host. So everybody has their things to share. They can um yeah, so well, and I guess now we're back down to 3. We were at 4 people looking in here, but all right, if that person had just waited just a little longer, and I guess on YouTube it's still saying 4 people watching, so and we're back up to 4. Okay, so we got 4 people, so I guess I can kind of go over what's on tap for tonight. So I've picked out 5 stories to go over tonight, all comics related, all from Bounding into Comics, and ironically, more or less all 5 stories also either directly or indirectly have something to do with DC. Um, Among those, including Chuck Dixon explaining why he believes that DC and let's see, Chuck Dixon diagnoses why DC and Marvel comic books suck. There's that article tonight. Um, Batman writer James Tynion the fourth said he got a hug from DC's editor in chief after Punchline debut boosted sales. Um, and albeit this isn't quite as directly related to DC, this story they used the recent one of the recent promo pictures from Superman Son of Kal on this. There's supposedly now a new study suggesting that woke culture and pandering has had quote unquote limited impact on LGBT mental health and suicide rate. Now, basically, I think what they're saying there with that particular article is this: is that one of the arguments they're saying why we need to have more quote unquote pro LGBT LGBTQ stories and comics is because they need to be represented, and you know and by them being represented, then their self-esteem goes up and they're not as likely to suffer from depression or ultimately commit suicide. But apparently there's a study that's now out that suggests that it's not having as big an impact as they thought it was. So also, let's see, there's a rumor going around that DC Comics is threatening to blacklist any freelancer associated with Comicsgate. Of course, they're probably already doing that. And then another one, DC Comics has officially announced that Superman will no longer fight for quote unquote the American way. If you guys remember, I'm sure like Woody, you probably remember this growing up on many of the show. It actually was originated on. Hey, Pops, how you doing, man? Good to see you here. I thank you for dropping in, my friend. We're just about to get started with the article. Hey, RJ's here. Hey, RJ. uh, I can't get anyone to go on the record about that blacklist. Yeah, there's again most of the story. Basically, all five stories we're gonna go over tonight either directly or indirectly have something to do with DC. Marvel's kind of thrown in there a little bit with the first article. Um, I hope. Let's see. I hope I'm on that list. Laugh out loud. Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? Pops. Yeah. Um, and of course I found out something earlier when I watched his stream this morning. I found out something very interesting. Pods, because with the name Pods Van Zant, of course, I thought, well, is it possible that he's related to any of the Van Zants from like Leonard Skinner 38 Special? There was Donnie, Johnny, and Ronnie Van Zant. He when I asked him about it, he said that he was not related to them. It was just a nickname. So anyway, so let's see now. Let's see what since Mike asked what I did this weekend. Okay, I'll answer. I ordered some new men's mesh thong. Okay. Probably something we don't really need to hear, though, toys, but each his own. They should put a big hammer and sickle on his chest and get it over. Well, you know what's kind of funny, Woody? And RJ, I know RJ and Potts probably are well aware of this. Okay, there actually was a storyline in kind of a what if storyline in DC in which what would have happened if instead of crashing in Smallville, Kansas, if Superman's spaceship had actually crashed in the Soviet Union. The story is a well-known story, known as or well-known kind of Elseworld, known as Superman Red Sun, SON. So, and DC fires, it will come to us for a boost, laugh out loud. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't know they were see through. So my sister-in-law saw me um, come out of the bathroom after a shower. Oops. Yeah, probably not something we all needed to know. Anyways, guys, I so now with all that, and I do thank you and appreciate all the likes and shares. I thank you guys for all that. So without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started on these articles? Get started on reading these articles and all that. So, hey, Dory, welcome to the stream. Thank you for dropping in. I'm just about to start the articles here. We got some very interesting news topics on DC we're going to go over here. So, um, hopefully you'll stick around, listen to some comics news here. And without further ado, we should get ourselves started here. Alrighty then. So now, here we go. Let's get to this first article from of course, Bane creator, Batman, former Batman writer, current current comic book creator for Arctoons, Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon, Diagnoses, Why DC and Marvel comic books suck. Article by John F. Trent, published basically this past Thursday. So here we go. Former DC Comics writer and creator Bane, Chuck Dixon, recently diagnosed why current DC Comics and Marvel Comics are atrocious. Wow, atrocious. Dude's bringing out the big words to really describe it. That's usually my department. Anyways, so let's get more to this. Dixon's comments came in his most recent Ask Chuck Dixon episode on his personal YouTube channel. Dixon responded to a question by Josh M., who asked, quote, why does it seem like all writers know how to do with established characters is a deconstruction story? Why can't writers do anything fun with established characters anymore? And why can't they create new characters that we can love without having to give them the quote unquote mantle of an already established character? Now that's another good point. One of the points that a lot of people have been talking about lately is how they've been using established characters to push agendas by making this character this way, making that character that way, all that jazz. But it's picking up my pull list pretty miserable. So that's coming straight from a fan there. Answering Josh, Dixon said, quote, I feel your pain. It's all lazy writing. It's basically what's going on here, unquote. And this, I think that's exactly what Dean Cain said in his remarks the other day too. You know, where they're talking about how, oh, this is so brave and daring and all that, but it's not. It's not brave and daring anymore. You know, it's almost becoming cliched. Let's see. So anyways, we continue on here. So quote, once upon a time, they created a comic book character, and then they wrote really cool stories for them to be in. Now they make all the stories about the character. So they have to plunge deeper and deeper into what makes a character tick or their psyche, unquote, he began. Okay, so I think what Chuck is saying there, like, um, before it was the character was part of the story. The story was the main thing, the character was a part of it. Okay. What he's saying now, it's like that's kind of been flipped. It's like the story is the character. It's all about the character now. I think that's basically what he's saying. Um, so he continues, quote, and of course, the irresistible urge to pull like gravity is to tear the character down, to deconstruct them. That stuff gets tired after a while. Well, yeah, I mean, it's okay to do it to a certain extent. I mean, you do want to make your personal connections with these characters to a certain extent, but you don't necessarily need, not like, you don't need to know every single intimate detail about every individual you come across, right? But the way they make it sound here is that that's exactly what they're doing with the characters. Um, let's see. And when you are all down deconstructing, there is nothing, all down deconstructing, there is nothing left. I think that's supposed to be done when you're all done deconstructing. There's, obviously that was a bit of a typo, a grammatical error there. There is nothing left. So then you have to make unwarranted changes to the characters that nobody asked for because you don't have any more ideas or any more character development, unquote. And of course, we get the panel from Batman Urban Legends #6, in which everybody knows what's been going on there. Let's see, and it looks like nobody's commenting on anything more yet, and we're down to 2 people. Well, hopefully people will be sticking around, coming back. Hmm. Anyways, I'm hoping this is just a glitch, and there are actually more people in here than just 3. I hope everybody is sticking around. Um, Dixon then asserts, quote, and you certainly don't have any ideas for good stories because you never did. You never did write any good stories for these characters because writing good stories and plotting are hard. It's the heavy lifting, unquote. Quote, whenever I hear a writer say, in smaller quotes, I'm more about character development than plotting. And plotting, I guess, is the practice of course, writing out the plots of a story. Um, unsmaller quote. I always say, in smaller quotes, go away, stop writing. Stop making us suffer for your lack of ability. Double quote, double unquote. um, and so this is why, let's see, I see a lot of them morphing characters, changing them, making them unrecognizable because they are bereft of ideas, unquote, he posed. Well, also, I think one of the things that RJ has pointed out too on several occasions um, is part of the reason why, and this is more in dealing with, the older established characters, why they're not using them anymore is so they don't have to pay them. Uh, let's see, Dory. Okay, what? I'm driving but listening. Okay, well, thank you, Dory. I hope you're enjoying the content thus far. Some interesting stuff we're talking about here. Let's see. Later in the video, Dixon states, quote, and when they do create new characters, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to create an appealing character. In fact, they seem well, they added a word here that probably shouldn't have been added too, but they seem dead set on creating unappealing characters that simply exist to PO the majority of comic book readers. And I know, and I know Flash did a few. I know Yellow Flash did a few videos on this one. The character, of course, that comes to mind is Starfire's daughter from that one book that was out a few months ago. That focused on Starfire's daughter, you know, and all that. I remember Flash literally saying she was quite an unappealing character. Um, so, but I think it's more because of her attitude than anything else. So to say basically in small quotes, if you don't like this character, there's something wrong with you. Go away, unquote. Which is a lot of the comic book creators' attitudes right now. He continued, quote, now there's nothing wrong with the comic readers. Once upon a time, comic book companies listened to the readership. It was called redundant publishing. Comics are a raw medium. You just throw bleep out there. A guy writes a story, another guy draws it. Simplest thing in the world, and then you put it out to the public, unquote. And again, if you guys for those of you who haven't caught our our Friday night streams when we've been going back and looking back at the history of comics and stuff like that, you guys want to check those out and get really look back on some good story writing, good stories, and all that, and some interesting art from the past. That's stuff that I think y'all would enjoy as well. So, and of course, don't forget, and I mentioned this earlier, RJ will be joining me this Friday night to fill in for Batgoat on this Friday's edition of the Historical Comic Retrospect here on the Mikestand. So, anyways, let's continue with the story here. If the public buys it, you do more of that. If the public doesn't buy it, you do less of that. And that's how we get multiple X-Men titles, and that's how you get fads in the 50s like horror comics, and then Western comics, and war comics, and then romance comics, unquote. Dixon detail, and that is true. And as we continue our historical retrospect, you guys will see that as it's going. Belly Robber. I guess this is a story that, let's see, this is from Frontline Combat number 6. I think was a story that Dixon may have written himself there. Dixon then addressed what he sees as one of the major problems with current comic book writing. Quote, but now they seem to be stuck. And all they ever do is one flavor, one size, fits all superhero comics. And they try to make them as woke as possible. And that is true. And that's been quite a topic over the last year or two. So even superhero fans are turned off by what they are doing. In addition to that, they are generally not well crafted, unquote. And we're gonna see some, and when we read some of the other articles we're gonna be reading tonight, you're gonna also see other ways that they're like kind of screwing around with comics as well. He then references Marvel Comics' unpublished New Warriors by Daniel Kibblesmith and Luciano Vecchio. Quote, look at the drawing here. I mean, come on. It looks like they took it out of someone's high school loose leaf notebook. Someone doodled this during math class. Unquote. Here's what they're talking about. Um, Basically, from I think from left to right here, at the far left here, you got uh, this one in blue here is I think that individual's name is Snowflake. Safe. I don't know which one's Snowflake, which one's Safe Space, but these two are Snowflake and Safe Space. This guy, I don't remember his name, but I think he's the one who gets his power from internet gas. And this is Trailblazer right here. Kind of an out of shape Asian American hero here. And I don't remember who this one is. And this is because they want these people to be represented. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in one of the other articles I'm going to read tonight here. All right. So, anyways, Dixon goes on to tell a story about the last Bat Summit he attended. At the same time, DC Comics was also hosting a Superman Summit. During this summit, the Superman writers came up with the idea that Superman gets amnesia and believes he is Batman. So, in effect, there would be two Batmen. But one of them was actually Superman and had superpowers. After telling this story, Dixon relays, quote, so this phenomenon of not knowing what to do with the characters and just wanting to basically mess with the characters instead of creating stories is simply not a new phenomenon. I mean, they've had like Superman, Clark Kent loses memory before, and you know, you had Superman where he lost his memory. I think I remember there was one story where Superman lost his memory. I don't know if it was due to the effects of red kryptonite or something like that. Lost his memory that he was Superman. Clark actually did not know he was Superman for a while there, and would just almost instinctively act out, as Clark Kent as Superman. Oh, I've never seen that story before. There's some Detective Comics number 696 right there. He then goes on to reference Die Hard 3. Quote, I often use the example of the movie Die Hard 3. Die Hard 3 is the best Batman movie ever made. It just unfortunately doesn't have Batman and Robin in it. It does have the Riddler, unquote. Okay. Quote, so it's a perfect example of an established character, John McClane, in a good story. The movie is not about John McClane, his life, what's happened to him, his divorce, or anything like that. It's all about how John McClane is going to react to Jeremy Irons turning New York City into chaos for a few days. And it's a Batman and Robin and Riddler story, unquote, Dixon explains. Quote, think about it. Rewatch it with that in mind, and you'll see what I mean. It's perfect, unquote, he concluded. There's I get Die Hard with a Vengeance right there. There's a scene from that. What do you make of Chuck Dixon's analysis, the current crop of writing at Marvel and DC? Well, hey, does any of you in here have anything you want to add to what we just read there? Anybody have any interesting comments you want to add to the conversation there? Before I move on to the next story. Well, we're back up to 4 people watching. Again, I'll ask one more time here. Give you guys a little bit more chance to respond. Um, Anybody want to respond to what Chuck was saying there? Anybody want to add anything to the conversation, or if not, we can move on to the next article. Let's see there. All right. All right. Well, I guess nobody has anything more to add. Sorry about this. Um, I'll move on to the next story then. Next story we're gonna look at here. Now, this is one of the guys who also went over to Substack as well. So, Batman writer James Tynion the Fourth says he got a hug. DC's editor in chief after Punchline debut boosted sales. Article by JB Augustine published last Thursday on the 14th. So, James Tynion the Fourth has revealed that the success of his run on Batman, which saw the introduction of several new characters and an increase in sales, earned him a hug from DC's then editor in chief. Yeah, you would think with all the Me Too stuff going on, though, or stuff like that, they wouldn't be doing that as much. But as Tynion explained in his newsletter, the sales of Batman number 92 um, were bolstered by the first look at Joker's new female accomplice, Punchline, on the above variant cover by Art Germ. So this is a new Punchline right here. Kind of looks like a very dangerous femme fatale, wouldn't you say? Anyways, the issue eventually sold over 200,000 copies, a dividend which directly played into Tynion's goal of turning Punchline into the next big thing. Quote, I wanted to get folks' attention turned toward Punchline, and originally I talked about trying to get an advertisement made up to announce her presence in the comic. Quote, he wrote on Substack. And here's the cover right here, Batman DC Universe 92 here. So they got the Penguin there, got Deathstroke. There's Batman there. He's kind of surrounded by a number of different of all villains there. I recognize there's a Riddler there in the back. Pawns of the Designer. I guess that's another new character. Quote, but I had gotten the math a bit wrong, unquote, he continued. Quote, we had slipped her onto the cover for Batman number 92, and that issue was released in the solicitations, dropping before my second issue was released, unquote. However, Tynion then notes that he and DC were successful in getting readers buzzing about Punchline and where she could be glimpsed before her official reveal in issue number 92. Quote, people started speculating online who the mysterious figure in the background of the cover was, unquote. He said, quote, "So I got permission to release the design of Punchline in my newsletter," unquote. So here's DC Universe Punchline number 1 here. This is her debut, I guess, or something to that effect, or at least a debut of her own issue, her own eponymous title there. The author then recalled how people were paying $15 in advance to get the cover and how cosplayers immediately created Punchline outfits in time for the convention season. Quote, "Then came the end of February 1st, or February, I attended C2E2, my first convention of the year, and signed comics for Punchline cosplayers," unquote, Tinyon explained. Here's another look right here. It looked like on the money there, that looks more like Harley Quinn on the money there. There's a Joker down the lower right hand corner there. It was there that Tinyon says he was rewarded with his hug. Quote, "I remember when the editor-in-chief of DC walked up to me after a panel and told me the sales on the upcoming Batman number 92, bolstered by the Art Germ variant cover featuring Punchline, and gave me a hug," unquote, revealed Tinyon. Quote, "It was," in brackets, "highest selling issue of Batman since the wedding, with sales over 200,000, unquote," he added. Quote, "I remember saying that I promised them that I was going to sell some Batman comics for them, and I was glad I could keep my promise," unquote. Punchline Volume 1, Number 1, Center Stage. The DC Comics variant cover by David Nakayama. Get it? If you guys are saying anything other stuff, there's nothing new in the from comments there. All right, so continuing on then. At the time, he could also brag about the attention another one of his comics, Something is Killing the Children, was getting from critics and readers. Quote, "I was so overwhelmed and happy with the response at that show, not only because of the love of my nascent Batman run, but because I was already seeing almost an equal number of Something is Killing the Children copies in my line, and I was seeing Batman. That I was seeing Batman issues," unquote. Tinyon recalled. BCC 14. James Tinyon, the fourth writer, comic Wow interview. So, I guess this is what James Tinyon the fourth looks like. While Tinyon didn't specify who the mysterious editor was, the most likely candidate is Bob Harris, in one of his last gestures before he was laid off and Marie Javins was installed. But the real story and irony is the elephant in the room. Bob Harris had been around long enough to see and remember Batman sales and those of comics in general. They were in the millions. Sadly, the bar is so low in modern times, he had to celebrate a single issue doing just under a quarter of that range. Man, that's kind of a downgrade. No wonder he got fired. You give James Tynion a hug for his feat with Batman. Um, Check yes or no on social media or in the comment section below. I don't know if I'd give him a hug, but I mean, it is something to. It is a kind of an interesting feat to behold. He's able to actually help boost sales a bit there. So, anyways, let's see. Got anybody have anything you want to add to the conversation here before I move on? Hmm. Once, twice, three times, lady. Uh, anyways, um, again, anybody want to add to the conversation right there, or shall we move on? Going once, twice. All right, moving on to the next story here. This one might be a little more controversial. Now, granted, this is not quite as directly involving DC, but you could it has more of an indirect involvement because of course they throw up this this shot from one of the variant covers. Now, okay, so the article here is new study suggests woke culture and pandering has had quote unquote limited impact on LGBT mental health and suicide rates. Article by Spencer McCooley, published this past Saturday. It's in the realms of comic books, movies, and television. Now, just so we understand what they're talking about here, I talked about this earlier. So, part of the reason why you have a lot of these individuals pushing for more and more representation, okay, is because people want to see more of themselves in comics. So so what they're saying is they want to, the LGBTQ community wants to see themselves represented more in comics and want to see more positive representations. Okay. And the theory basically being is if there was more positive representations of them in comics, then you wouldn't have as many of them suffering from things like depression or, going out and committing suicide. Okay. But according, I guess, from what they're saying here, if you would just go on based on the headline of the article here, um, that hasn't been happening, at least not to the extent that they'd hoped it would. So it's had limited impact. So why don't we go ahead and get into this one? Finally somebody said, "Hey, Woody." Let's see. Yeah, move on. Yeah, okay. I don't know if that means you were telling me to move on to this article, whatever. But so anyways, getting on to the next article here. This article here. A new study has found that despite the numerous LGBT positive advancements in American society, such shifts in attitude have had, quote, limited impact on stress processes and mental health for sexual minority people, unquote. Oh boy, now we're getting into that language, huh? Ah, suggesting that the recent societal focus on woke culture and minority pandering have been less beneficial for the intended recipients than proponents claim. Yeah, in fact, I think I've even heard a few I've heard a few stories out there too that actually some members of these communities have even come out and said, "Hey, this isn't helping." So I mean, you know, and it also just goes to show you the ignorance and isms that these proponents have as well. So, so it's all new X Men, Volume One, Number 40, Utopians, Marvel Comics from Brian Michael Bendis, word by, and then art by Mahmoud Asrar and Rain Barato. Okay. The 2016-2017 study conducted by a team of psychologists and sexual orientation specialists and brought to Bounding into Comics attention by Gothic Therapy YouTube channel co-host, master of the TDS, um, studied a total of 1,518 LGBT participants in order to assess, quote, how stress, identity, connectedness with the LGBT community, and psychological distress and suicide behavior varied across three distinct, in brackets, classifications of sexual minority people in the United States. According to the researchers' findings across the three groups labeled Pride, born between 1956 and 63, Visibility, born between 1974 and 81, and Equality, born between 1990 and 1997, the name after their respective quote unquote issues facing each specific LGBT generation, though members of the younger generation were coming out sooner than their predecessors. There were, quote, no signs that the improved social environment attenuated their exposure to minority stressors, unquote, which include, quote, both distal stressors such as violence and discrimination and proximal stressors such as internalized homophobia and expectations of rejection, unquote. So again, a lot of what they're saying here, it sounds like these proponents' efforts are not working. They're not really attaining the goals that they're hoping to attain. Anything to cover up the fact that mental disorders tend to travel in clusters. Okay, that's an interesting statement to make there. Woody. Quote, psychological distress and suicide behavior also were not improved and indeed were worse for younger than the older cohorts, unquote. The study shockingly found, quote, these findings suggest changes in the social environment had limited impact on stress processes and mental health for sexual minority people, unquote. So, in plain English, there, again, the efforts to increase representation and to pander to the LGBT community apparently didn't have the amount of effect they were hoping it would on their mental health and and whether or not they would decide that they felt the need to kill themselves. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 6 Number 9, I Shall Make You a Star-Lord, basically by Al Ewing and Juan Cabaland Federico Blee. Okay. While researchers found that the younger generation, quote, had less exposure, unquote, to such stressors as being, quote, hit, beaten, physically attacked, or sexually assaulted, unquote, and even, quote, attempted robbery, unquote, they were also surprised to find that this group of respondents both claimed to experience more, quote, everyday discrimination, unquote, and, quote, internalized homophobia, unquote, than their older cohorts. To that end, perhaps the most worrying bit of the study's findings, however, is that despite the country becoming more and more accepting and welcoming over the past 65 years, um, the suicide rate among LGBT individuals has been on a steady rise, with, quote, 30% of the younger cohort, 24% of the middle cohort, and 21% of the older cohort reported at least one suicide attempt, unquote, reporting suicide attempts in their lifetime. So basically, so those who were born between 1990 and 1997, 30% of those had at least one suicide thought. Those born between 1974 and 81, 24% of those reported at least one suicide thought, and those born between 1956 and 1963, 21% of those individuals had reported at least one suicidal thought. That's what they're basically saying right there. Infinite Frontier, volume number 1, Infinite Frontier, so number 0. All right. So let's see if you guys, what you guys might be saying here to this one. Hey, Batgoat, how you doing, man? Thank you for dropping in, my friend. As always, guys, of course, I do appreciate any and all likes and shares. Helps get more people in here. Helps, and I do really appreciate that. Hopefully, let's see, what do we have here? What's up, bro daddies? Not much. Yeah, Batgoat. Just to let you know, I was able to find somebody to fill in for you on Friday. I got RJ to fill in for you on Friday, so hopefully, had to go to the bar after golfing to get paperwork signed. Then I stayed, of course, jackpot paperwork. Yeah, for so you can get your money, right? All right, so continuing on with the article here, then let's see now. In summarizing their work, the researchers asserted that they had quote, found little evidence that social and legal improvements during the past 50 years in the status of sexual minority people have altered the experiences of sexual minority people in terms of exposure to minority stressors and resultant adverse mental health outcomes. So basically, for all of their for all their good intentions and all their all their efforts, hasn't really amounted to much. Has not amounted to much at all. Quote, our findings, unquote, they explained, quote, thus are consistent with studies that showed that minority stress and health disparities based on sexual orientation have not dissipated despite the significant social and legal gains of the last decade, unquote. In conclusion, the researchers noted that their findings both, quote, indicate the extent to which changes in the social environment have been limited in their impact on stress processes and mental health for sexual minority people, unquote, and, quote, speak to the endurance of cultural ideologies such as homophobia and heterosexism, accompanying rejection of and violence toward sexual minorities. All right, I don't know if let me read that one more time because I don't know if I fully even read that right. In conclusion, the researchers noted that their findings both, quote, indicate the extent to which changes in social environment have been limited in their impact on stress processes and mental health for sexual minority people, unquote, and, quote, speak to the endurance of cultural ideologies such as homophobia and heterosexism, accompanying rejection of and violence toward sexual minorities. Okay, let me see if I. Indicate the extent to which changes in social life have been limited, which is true, and then speak to the endurance of cultural ideologies as such as homophobia and heterosex. Well, a biological fact is that you cannot procreate through homosexual means. Okay, the only way for a society to survive and move forward is to be able to procreate, and you cannot do that through homosexual means. You know, we were biologically designed to procreate via, through a man and a woman. Okay, so you'd end up, if you got too many people who engaged you know, in homosexual acts, it would very easily kill off. It could very easily kill off an entire generation or two because those acts do not lend towards procreation, towards producing offspring. You know, that's a biological fact. Um, so let's see. It looks like you guys have been. Looks like you guys got something going here, conversation wise. Apparently, because very cool. Thanks, critical. Yep. Okay. Hey, Woody Toys. Let's see. Yo, Jot. Let's see. Hey, goats. Hey, back here. Let's see. Um, my Swatch made it on my Twitter. Laugh out. Let's see. Tell that to our Secretary of Transportation. He used to run 38 um, buses at South Bend, Indiana. All right, don't know if I completely understand what that means, but it was 78 degrees here today. Big golf, BG golfed like a MF. um, Shorts and short sleeves. Minnesota is full of bipolar. It's such a bipolar state. Laugh out loud. Yeah. Well, I've heard a number of people comment on how Minnesota is kind of wacky there. Um, 2 days ago, I had full sweats and earworms. Yeah, California can be like that too sometimes. Champion swatches, famous, cool. All right. Well, anyways, as we get ready to continue on here, I'm hoping people are still around. Counter keeps screwing around a bit, but anyways, let me see if I get okay. So, what does all the academic speak mean in regards to culture? It's a simple transitive equation, really. Um, as the above study found, that LGBT youths are suffering more than their older counterparts, Despite the leaps and bounds towards normalization of their lifestyle, it stands to reason that the forced rhetoric and narrative bludgeoning of society by mainstream and social media has done little, if anything, to address the actual problems facing these individuals. Otherwise, the researchers' findings would have been far more positive than they are. So I think that's a very key statement right there. That is a very key statement right there. I'm going to read that statement one more time because I think that is like right on the nose of what the situation is here. I'm going to emphasize certain words again too. As the above study found that LGBT youths are suffering more than their older counterparts despite the leaps and bounds towards normalization of their lifestyles, it stands to reason that the forced rhetoric forced rhetoric and narrative bludgeoning of society by mainstream and social media have done little, if anything, to address the actual problems facing these individuals. Otherwise, the researchers' findings would have been far more positive than they were. So basically, this is what it boils down to. The belief is that if you pander to these groups, if you make it everything about putting more and more representation in the comics, you really push that whole idea, push more acceptance. If you try to force acceptance and force it, then as those in the LGBT community see more of themselves in comics, that will elevate their self-esteem, and therefore they will not be as likely to suffer from depression or any kind of other mental health issues, or even to the most extreme extent of contemplating suicide. Okay, the belief is that if you force acceptance and LGBT community members see themselves more representative in positive lights, that should make them feel good enough to where they don't suffer from mental health and or suicidal behavior. But what the study has shown is that doing that has had little, if any, effect whatsoever on preventing those issues. In some cases, it's actually made the situation worse, not better. So, if the study tells us anything, it's stop pandering, stop pandering, stop pandering. Anyways, thus it becomes clear that no matter how many characters are sexuality swapped, rebooted as trans, or used as a mouthpiece to lecture audiences on social issues, woke culture is more focused on perpetuating itself and in the process giving more unwarranted power and influence to identity obsessed bullies than actually doing any tangible good. Basically, that's what it boils down to. In fact, here's something I would even point out with that. Trying to force acceptance of a particular lifestyle like that is only going to get people upset, and if anything, it's more likely to increase the problems. It's more likely to increase because it's basically like in some ways it's almost like you know the proponents who are pushing this are trying to collectively push their you know what down people's throats. And in reality, if you were to actually try to do that, you would have a very nasty surprise coming for you. That's it's guaranteed. Okay? Trying to force acceptance like that, trying to lecture people and browbeat them into submission is not going to work. You're gonna get such a backlash. You're almost gonna want to go stick your head in the sand like an ostrich because people are just not gonna put up with it. And we are kind of seeing it because as they have been trying to push more and more of this stuff, they keep introducing these characters. People are turning away. They're taking their business elsewhere. You know, if you end up backing them into a corner and forcing the issue, then you're gonna have hell to pay. So, what do you make of the study's findings on LGBT mental health? Let us know. I think they made some good points in it. I think I think. Granted, chances are the proponents will still look at this and not get it. You but they made some very good points in that study, trying to force people to accept homosexuality as a norm it's only going to backfire. It's going to just backfire right in their faces. It's going to be a huge explosion that you're not gonna like. Trying to force the issue like that. Let's see what's been what's Twitter. I'll pass on. The $6 million man on my feet. A couple of views too. Hmm. All right. Well, we're going to be moving on to the next story here. And I do hope that RJ and Dory and Pops are still here because we're going to get into it. We're going to get into this next story is one that's really interesting. This is kind of the rumored blacklist story. So I'm hoping that they're still around. My counter is saying that only 3 people, but I know we've got at least 4, maybe 5 people watching. But for whatever reason, and I know I do know that Dory was saying she was driving, but I'm hoping that so anyways, here we go. Hopefully, I hope they're still around because this story right here is I know one they were like probably in. I know like in particular, um, RJ was talking about here. Rumor: DC Comics threatening to blacklist any freelancer associated with Comicsgate. Author Spencer McCulley wrote it, and it was published this past Saturday. So here we go with this article right here. According to a new rumor, DC Comics is reportedly threatening any freelancer who is caught partnering with Comicsgate in any capacity with a lifetime ban from working for the publisher. Oh yeah, that's a wise idea. Yeah, just okay. You go work with Comicsgate, fine. We don't want we don't want your business here. We don't want your stuff here anymore. Then you can go. Okay, you want to go work with Comicsgate? Fine, go work with Comicsgate. You're never, don't let the door hit you in the rear end as you leave. Yeah, if I was an employee, if I was the employee, I'd tell them where they go stick it. I'd just go off and do it. So. First Detective Column, Volume 1, Number 967, A Lonely Place Living, Chapter 3, 2017, variant cover by art by Raphael Albuquerque. Okay. Word of DC's supposed new anti-Comicsgate policy was first made public by Shelley Lopresti, the wife of veteran comic book artist Aaron Lopresti. Oh yeah, and I think I saw him on I think I actually saw him on Ethan's stream earlier when I kind of popped in briefly, who himself recently made a turn towards Comicsgate after an appearance on Ethan Van Sciver's live stream made in promotion of the crowdfunding campaign for his original series Wrath of God. Earned him a deluge of condemnation from contemporary comic book professionals and audiences. A Wraith of God. On October 14th, which was last Thursday, Shelley took to her personal Twitter account to reveal, as if we needed another reason to boycott DC Comics, they are now threatening their freelancers that if they do any work for anyone associated with Comicsgate, that they will never work for DC again. Unquote. Yeah, that's again, that's a good way of that's another good way of shooting yourself in the foot there. Basically tell your artists, hey, if you're going, if you tell your artists, tell your writers, hey, if you're gonna go work with those guys, don't bother coming back. See how many writers and artists they still have left after all that. See if they have enough artists and writers to continue the production that they're currently at. Quote, they are not on contract and DC should have no say, unquote, she asserted. Quote, woke business model, unquote. In response to another user who asked, quote, why would Comicsgate care, unquote, Shelley, or why would Comicsgaters care, unquote, Shelley stated that she cares about the issue because DC, quote, should not be dictating who you can work for as a freelancer, unquote. Which she's right. She's 100% right there. That's the whole point of being a freelancer. Okay? You're free to work with whoever you want. Quote, they did not say, in brackets, freelancers couldn't work for Marvel either, unquote, she further disclosed, suggesting that DC's decision is based more on their own personal dislike of Comicsgate, any non-competition philosophy. Quote, if they want them to want them exclusive, then they should pay them to be. I care for those who need the work and the community that DC and Marvel is killing, unquote. I mean, freelancers have a right to work with whoever they want. They want to work with DC, they can work with DC. They want to work with Marvel, they can work with Marvel. They want to work with Archie Comics, they can work with Archie Comics. Want to work with Dark Horse, whether it's, they want to work with Dark Horse, they can work with Dark Horse. They can work with IDW, work with IDW. If they want to work with Image, work with Image. Or if they want to just work with people with comedy, work with people with comedy. They have every right to whoever they want to work with. As for how Shelley was made aware of DC's new rules, she and Aaron were allegedly, quote, told by two individuals, unquote, who currently freelance for the publisher, though she unfortunately felt that it was not her place, quote unquote, to say who. Quote, that is up to them, unquote, she explained. Quote, I have no reason to lie about it. It does not impact my family, but we care about others, and it is a horrible thing to do, unquote. What do you make of DC allegedly threatening to sever all ties with any creators who work with Comicsgate? There's no. Well, I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid. You chase away all those freelancers. Okay, so you do have your contracted employees still. Yeah, but you chase away your freelancers, you're going to cut down your production ability. And if you cut down on your production ability, you're not going to be producing as many comics. If you're not producing as many comics, you're not going to be able to sell as many comics. And if you can't sell as many comics, you're not going to be making as much money. Like the racket pops. Yeah, those are the blast. Let's see, bomb pop. You can ignore chat. He did laugh out. 10 likes. Not too. Well, thanks, Bat. Go. Yeah, I'm glad for that. Oh no, confiscate, hide the children. uh, yeah. I know there's more. I know there's got to be more than two people watching here. I'm pretty sure there's a lot. There's got to be like again. I'm hoping that that pops and okay. Why is it that when we click for the participants, we're not able to see them now? Oh, we got three people. Okay. But I know there's got to be more than three people. All right, so now we'll get to the last main article of the night. Wow, we're already past an hour 18, so we're at the hour 18 mark, so we're actually making good time here. So we got one more article to go through. Another example of how DC is shooting themselves in the foot here. Okay, so DC Comics officially announces Superman will no longer fight for, quote unquote, the American way. Article by Spencer Baculi, published today. So let's see what this is all about. In one of the most audacious yet unsurprising moves from DC Comics in recent years, the comic book publisher has announced that they will officially be dropping, quote unquote, the American way from Superman's iconic catchphrase in favor of the more inclusive alternative. Of course, Truth, Justice, and Truth, Justice, and the American Way, 1991, cover by Jerry Ordway there. As announced by DC Chief Creative Officer and Publisher Jim Lee during the October 2021 edition of DC Fandom, the Man of Steel's iconic catchphrase will be updated from Truth, Justice, and the American Way to Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. In order to better reflect the global storyline, again, the whole New World Order bit, global storylines that we are telling across DC and to honor the character's incredible legacy of over 80 years of building a better world. quote, Superman has long been a symbol of hope who inspires people from around the world, unquote, said Lee. And it is that optimism and hope that powers him forward in his new mission statement. Iconic Truth, Justice, and the American Way line dates all the way back to the Superman radio dramas, where an iteration of the phrase is uttered in conclusion to the series opening as a narrator announces Superman, who can leap tall buildings in a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice. The American Way line was eventually added to the slogan in 1942, making its debut in the intro sequence of Max Fleischer's animated Superman serials. That's Serial, meaning like a series, not Cereal, as in the breakfast food. In an attempt to boost patriotism and spirits at home during World War II. There's a sign of the Fleischer cartoon right there. That's actually better than some of the ones I've seen recently. With that, in terms of the first hints that DC would be moving to change Superman's classic motto was first seen in Superman, Son of Kal-El #1, where an author, Tom Taylor, revealed that Clark's son, John, would choose to fight for, quote, truth, justice, and a better world, quote, after adopting his father's heroic mantle. And of course, as RJ's pointed out on several occasions, they're basically trying to remove Superman from the situation, or remove Clark from the situation, so they don't have to pay the Siegel family. However, it seems that with the slight variation in wording and the fact that it was used first for John rather than Clark, the updated motto's use in the issue was a quote unquote testing of the waters, so to speak. Or seeing if people would actually accept it. Truth, justice, in a bitter world. Ironically, during an interview with Fox News last year, former Superman actor Dean Cain told host Ainsley Earnhardt, quote, I promise you, as Superman, I wouldn't today be allowed to say truth, justice, in the American way, unquote. Quote, with those telling negative stories, having an agenda, they hate capitalism, they hate law and order, they hate America, unquote. The So he's talking about, of course, the comic book creators who are writing the Superman stories now. They hate everything that Superman has traditionally stood for. According to DC, the new model will be used in main continuity for Clark Kent Superman, will be featured across all mediums, including comic books, film, TV, video games, and more. Yeah, that's probably not going to fly too much. That's not, if they're going to start having Clark not use the American way, that's probably not going to fly. I doubt Superman's sales will start to tank if that happens. What do you make of DC dropping the American way from Superman's motto? Yeah, I think it's just more pandering to the left. It's more of these people trying to destroy the country from within. That's basically what it boils down to. So yeah, so that's all that we got for the main stories tonight. And now I'm down to like, okay, is everybody still here? Is everybody still here? Sound off. 1, 2. Sound off. 3, 4. Sorry for the language, Mike, but I know you agree. Laugh out loud. Dean Kane rocks. Yeah. I'm back. I had a phone. Okay. I just, because my counter's now saying that only one person is watching, but I know there's got to be more than one person watching here. I cannot believe that there's only one person watching. I think there's more than one person watching, but YouTube's being stupid again. Now, of course, it's up to 2. I think there's more than 2, though. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Leto hasn't come in yet tonight. Yeah, I myself still have Facebook. Oh, now we're back up to 4 people. That's good to see. Yeah. I still have Facebook, but I don't, aside from sharing my videos and stuff like that, I don't really post too much on it. I usually just go there to play games. And then Twitter, I've told you guys this before, I got rid of Twitter back at the end of 19. So I've basically been off Twitter for almost 2 years now. So anyway, so we're at an hour 27 now. So unless there's anything you guys want to talk about or anything you guys want to ask or anything, we can start wrapping up here. We got through the main art. We're coming up on an hour and a half right now. By the time we get through history and all that, we'll probably be closer to an hour 45. So unless there's anything you guys want to really talk about or anything like that, we can start wrapping up here and I can get to this day in each history. Fine, ignore me. Gonna get another drink. I don't know if I was ignoring you. Read above. Sorry for. Well, I did look above. I didn't see any bad language there. Back out. Laugh out loud. I didn't see. I didn't see. And I did go back and look through it, and I didn't see any like foul language there. So. So again, if there's anything though you guys want to talk about right now, or ask about, do that. If not, we can probably start to wind down and we can get right into history here and start to wind down. Yeah, let's Nietzsche it. Ding dongs or ding ding it. Okay. Read the quote. Again, what quote though? That's I don't think I didn't. Let's see. Sorry for the language. I'm in a drinking mood. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Like rocket popsicle. Okay. Yeah, those are the okay. Again, I still don't see anything there. Back out. Didn't see anything there, or on the YouTube side of it either. So. Who's the end? And just to give you guys, I get. No, never mind. I thought that was Nick. Right above. Read the quote. Susan hiding this. I mean, sorry for the language. Oh, I've seen that part. I've seen that part several times. But again, sorry for what language because I haven't seen anything. I don't see any particular quote by you either. Either back out. I think yes, Susan is at work. So maybe that's why it seemed like we were ignoring you because maybe she was already taking the quote out before any of us could catch it. They, what he's asking, what did you say? Let's go, Brandon, or something. I don't even get that. I mean, I've been hearing that quite a bit too. That I've been hearing that quite a bit lately. There's this chant about "Let's go, Brown." What's that all about? Because I have no clue what that's supposed to be about. Um, yep, that goat. I go disconnect from YouTube and reconnect to YouTube and look in the chat. I'll bet you don't see that. All right. Well, anyways, I think it would be a good time to start winding down here. I haven't seen any notification from Nick yet, so I don't know if he's going to be streaming or not tonight. But I thank you guys for being here. And I guess we'll start winding down here. With today being Monday, October the let's see, what a spontaneous chat of F Joe. Oh, F Joe. That one I've heard about. Broke out after a racing driver won a race, and the news announcer said they must be chanting "Let's go, Brandon." Oh yeah, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Chat chant. Yeah, now I kind of know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about now. I think I did hear something about that, but I just didn't know that Brandon was a name that is associated with it. In other words, a particular race driver won a race. Fans started chanting F Joe Biden. And the announcers, so they wouldn't get in trouble from the FCC or anybody, they said, "Oh, they must be chanting, let's go, Brandon." But how anybody can go F Joe Biden and let's go, Brandon? I guess, yeah, I guess they could, but but then again, was Brandon the guy who won the race? So if he was, and maybe yeah, that would work. But if the guy's name wasn't Brandon, that'd be kind of stupid. Be an obvious. It'd be obvious what the announcers. What exact quote back up? I mean, No, I don't really think any of us are seeing the quote for some reason. I see if there's any kind of indication here on the YouTube side of it. See if there's anything that says like quote taken down or something like that. But I don't. Yeah, I don't see anything that. Hmm. Yeah, I don't really see anything back. I'm looking back over on the YouTube page here as well, but I don't even see any indication like quote was taken down or anything for anything. And now so now there is an announcement from Nick. He is streaming tonight. Why is everyone an unhinged lunatic? Ron Toy, Melinda Scott, everyone on Twitter, and more. Oh boy, I wonder what. Oh, what's going on with Ron now? I'm using a word that got Crowder suspended. Uh, Fig tree, put them to fig tree, put them together. I hate rainbow flags and Susan. Oh, okay. I see no messages about maggots or bundles of sticks. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. We're not seeing. So apparently, um, YouTube must be censoring that goat. That's what it. That they are literally censoring me as soon as I send for one word that used to not mean anything. Bleep you, Susan. Uh, Batgoat, are you really sure you want to bleep Susan? Does anybody here really want to bleep Susan? Ah. Are you really sure you want to bleep Susan there, Batgoat? It really is shocking that the character that it's really shocking that the character of so many millions of people in the United States is revealed to be evil. Okay, let me see these last. Really is shocking that the character of so many millions of people in the United States is revealed to be so evil. No, she's heinous. That's why I call her Droopy. Her in the metaphorical way. I know, Beck. I figured as much. It's just you think about it though. There unfortunately probably are people who want to F her in the more real way. Nobody here probably, but yeah. That's a good laugh to be had. Play on words. People that want to F Susan, get off on. Get off on football. Yeah. Anyways, anyways, to each his own. Anyways, okay, so we've had a good laugh at that. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up here. We're now up to an hour 41. Um, she gave a strike to Adam Kragler for talking about the Loudoun County uh, ARP case. Yeah, yeah. I think I did hear. I think I did hear something about it. I think Nick mentioned that some point. Um, so, anyways, yeah. Let's start to wrap this. Really, I saw that vid posted, but didn't watch it. Great case. Night, folks. Night, toys. I know we are about to wrap up, so um, I took all my videos off YouTube a year ago. I want nothing to do with a bunch of bleep heads. Peace, toys. All right. Well, anyways, guys, let's start to wrap this up. So today being Monday, October the 18th, 2021. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Without any further ado here. Yeah, they suck. History. Yeah. All right. So without any further ado, so first off, on this date, back in 2006, 15 years ago today, the 570th issue of Archie from Archie Comics went on sale on this date. Um, Sold for $2.25. Had 32 pages featuring the stories The City Library, The True Greek, The No So Great Outdoors, and To Act or Not to Act. So on this date back in 2006, 15 years ago today, 570th issue of Archie went on sale on this date in 2006. And 2006 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. As also on this date, a bit of a sadder note to be made here. On this date, well, not quite sad because he still lived a pretty long life. But on this date, back in 2006 as well, 15 years ago today, uh, Don R. Christensen passed away at the age of 90, from what I understand was natural causes. He was an American animator, cartoonist, illustrator, writer, and inventor. He he would work for he'd work for some of the he would let's see worked for nearly 4 decades as a storyboard artist and artist for primarily for Western Publishing, Dell, and Gold Key comic books, as well as working for Hanna-Barbera, Walter Lantz Productions, DePatie Frayling Enterprises, and other cartoon studios. So, on this date, 15 years ago today, Don R. Christensen, American animator, cartoonist, illustrator, writer, and inventor, passed away at the age of 90. So, there you go. So, with that, guys, that's all I have for you tonight. I thank you guys again for being here. I thank you guys for all the likes and shares. Don't forget this Friday, of course, Batgoat is taking the night off on Friday. I got RJ Carter coming in, fill in for him for the historical comics retrospect. We'll be looking at uh, feature funnies number 10 from Quality Comics, including reading such features as The Clock. Anyways, let me get through the last of these comments and then we will move on. Don't forget, Nick is apparently going to be talking about Ron Toy apparently tonight. So I actually get as many views on BitChute as I did on YouTube. Anyway, couple of dozen. How many times have I said Flaggedy? Google big mods. No one likes you. You keeping count, you little insect. Yeah, so the father complains at a public forum. Some cop comes behind them, grabs his arm, and he yanks it back. And the cop and his buddies use that as an excuse to beat the haul him away with his pants down. Peace, F. Can't believe that one made it. But it was just again. Yeah. Batgoat, you better be careful with that because she may actually think you want to F her. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you again for being here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you guys all back here tomorrow night. Anyways, see ya. Bye. Bye.